Does your school have an experiential and outdoor education program? Do you offer some version of what we call the week without walls? And how can outdoor and experiential education and learning be integrated into your regular classroom practices, at the same time supporting wellness? Well, get ready for some answers, because we have the right guy on to cover this big topic that is pretty prevalent in a lot of international schools. Our guest today is Zack Beaty, a friend and former colleague of Audrey's. He is the outdoor education coordinator at the international school Nido de Aguilas in Santiago, Chile. So as you probably have picked up, Audrey and I have a background in wellness, so it's just a great connection to have Zack come on. And what makes this interview so special to me is that he offers very tangible strategies to bring experiential learning into the culture of a school. So learn more about Zack's background by checking out the show notes where we have a full biography for him. Get ready for a great show and a very practical conversation. This episode was recorded on January 17th, 2023. Hello, Zack. Welcome to the podcast. So where in the world are you?
Howdy. Well, I am calling in right now from the Lo Barnechea Comuna of Santiago de Chile.
Awesome. So, Zack, I know we spent some time together there at Nido de Aguilas. Wondering if you have a going global story you'd like to share with us this morning.
Well, sure, yes. Whenever I think about how I got to where I am today and joined this global community, I like to tell people a brief story about I was a high school Spanish teacher back in Waco, Texas, and my wife and I, before she and I had met, had both individually considered joining the Peace Corps, but never pulled the trigger. And then after we'd been married for 1 or 2 years, we got the itch and asked some professors from our local Baylor University, how could we be teachers somewhere across the world? So they told us about the job fair in Atlanta. And so we went and interviewed and came back from the job fair feeling Nido or nowhere, basically, was the good feeling that we had after that. Waited and took some time and waited and waited and waited some more. And then finally got that good call that we were invited to join the Nido de Aguilas community here. And we thought it would be an adventure of 2 to 3 years, soaking in some Spanish skills and having some travels down here. But little did we know that we would fall in love with Nido and Chile, and that was 2007. So it's been a while. We love it very much.
Awesome. That's a pretty typical kind of a story, isn't it? Oh, couple 3 years, then 10 years later.
So cool that you all really found a home there in a community. All right, let's go to our guiding question, which is one I'm really excited about because it gets into integration and the whole child, and especially experiential education. So here we go. How does the outdoor education program support the mission and curriculum of the international school Nido de Aguilas?
Well, in a way, it's almost as if the vision and mission of Nido were written to coexist with an outdoor education program. Some of the key words from our Nido mission is connecting authentically, exploring with curiosity, and acting with purpose. And so you can see those main ideas go hand in hand with learning in the outdoors, learning with nature, from nature, learning with each other. How do my actions have an effect on other people? How do my actions have an effect on other species throughout the globe? We really enjoy the opportunity to work with students both in off-campus programs and also connecting with students and teachers in how can we support, what are some of the main ideas that you teachers need to help your students experience more than just through a textbook or in a classroom. So we're blessed with about 100 acres of land behind our school in which we take students to connect with nature, get their hands dirty, learn while doing, whether it be plotting the seismic distance of theoretical earthquakes, as that would be a classic real life, authentic problem that happens here in Chile. Or with our seventh grade, we really love supporting them in a passions project where we take them out and help them practice asking some deep questions with this classic question starters of who, what, when, where, why, how. See examples in our land of whenever they're figuring out what do I want to study, how can I learn how to build bigger questions with the simple questions of how did this tree get here? What purpose is it serving? Who are the community members of this particular environment in our Nido Hills that this tree serves? And we practice and have those discussions, and then they can take that skill that they learned in one setting and transfer it to another application.
That's amazing. So, from my understanding, the program's existed in some form since the time of the founder, Waldo Stevenson. He kind of built that into the whole school mission. To what extent would you say it has been and continues to be incorporated into the Nido mission today?
Absolutely. Whenever we have discussions with new families or with students or families who've been here for a long time about why Nido believes in the outdoor education program, we always make reference to this is connecting with the original vision of the founders of nature is one of the most amazing learning concepts and environments for the double meaning of that word, where we can help students realize my choices affect other people. And so I need to learn how to be accountable for myself, accountable for others. And outdoor education and experiential education is a classic and a very functional way in which students can realize I have a job to do that affects my community, whether my community is 3 or 4 people in this particular setting, or my community is 10 to 12 students on a trip, or 20 students in a classroom experience. My choices affect other people, and other people's choices affect me. And so let's learn together how we can practice those skills as middle school students that will then they can carry on to the next facets of their life. And so we could also think about the more recent history of the Nido Without Walls program and know that many teachers who have been here for a long time or alumni of my age will speak to me about how they love that the program still exists and they love that they've seen its continuity be respected throughout Nido's history. And so I could also recall that whenever I first arrived at Nido, it was still in the version of being supported by a middle school teacher receiving an additional stipend to coordinate that program and a high school teacher receiving a stipend to coordinate that program. But at one point, I believe one of those colleagues convinced the administration, we've got some really positive potential that we're not meeting right now. And let's make the commitment to really grow this program to where it needs to be compared to the original vision of our founders and what Nido says we want to provide for our students as far as for authentic experiential education. So that was in about 2008, whenever Nido decided to create this full-time position, hire someone with a lot of outdoor education, scientific skills, people person skills. And so that's whenever the program really started to take off and grow. And I was fortunate to be a chaperoning teacher on the programs during that time, set in on some of the meetings and thought, this is cool. I like this. And little did I know that listening in with my Texas Mexican textbook Spanish to a gringo who'd been here in Chile working on his Chilean Spanish, a whole different concept, that I would be that gringo using my Chilean Spanish 10 years later.
That's awesome.
It is. And I think for our listeners, they can see how, if you want a program to work, there are certain steps you need to take, right? You, if possible, you really make that connection to how it's a part of the mission of the school. You build systems and you get people who are passionate and talented and trained in that program area to lead it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you get your administrative buy-in. I used to be a tech integrator, and I would always say, if we really want to move forward in helping technology support pedagogy, I need to have administrators sitting beside me at all the meetings to show that they think this is important.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like that's like what you all did as well. So as I was saying before we started up, I'm so excited to hear about a school that's doing experiential ed so well, because like before we turned on the mics, I did it in college and then I would become a social studies teacher. But I always longed to say, what can I do to help my students have that personal self-growth that I know I could do if I had them on a ropes course, if I was taking them for hikes, if we're doing a week without walls. So that's pretty powerful. I find it fascinating that you're using inquiry. So many schools are about inquiry, but you all are taking it to that personal level, to that self-understanding level, and then saying, okay, ask these questions, but also then look outward. How are you affecting this place, and how could you affect other people and other places where you're going? So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
And it also sounds like your program is very integrated into the culture of the school. So this finally gets me to my question. As a proponent of wellness and personal growth, how does your experiential ed program support the wellness and growth of the whole child at your school? And maybe if you can unpack that a little bit, what are some specific life skills, character strengths that you're aiming to help grow in your students?
That's a great question. Nido has done a lot in terms of reflection for many years. And so those are some great practices that I really feel like our students from an early age in elementary times, the teachers ask students to, in simple formats of think about, what did I do well today? What's something that I would like to get better at? And what is something that I did that affected our group in a positive way? And so obviously we want to create that little sandwich of positive growth moment and finish with some positive well. So the students are doing some honest reflection about, how are my choices affecting other people, and what are some personal goals that I want to be able to reach? So whether that's in the third grade day at the local river where we're working on rocks and minerals and they're playing with sediments and having a little fun challenge. How can they build a small rock wall, and how does it change the course of the river? But then the teachers also help ask the students, how were you as a group member today? And what's something that you could do better for next time? And so those little beginning self-reflective practices, we see those by the time they get to middle school, that they have practiced self-examination about, what am I good at? What are my areas for growth? And how can I be the best possible me for myself and for other people around me?
That's amazing.
So I guess one of the facets that I'm thinking about with our program is that in some ways we often are thought of as the trip coordinators, but more than just that, we are the campus coaches in a way, like an instructional coach. We love to get our hands dirty, for lack of a better metaphor, and figure out, how can we help our classroom educators take some of the content that they are working on and support them in helping the students reach it in a meaningful way. And so one of the examples that I'm thinking of is when our seventh grade humanities team, after they've done a little bit of reading and discussion about utopian and dystopian cultures,
Mhm.
that we take them on a walk and help them examine some of the land features around our school and figure out, what are the features connected to this land that can help you as a community leader start a society. Would you settle here or would you not settle here? And what are the available resources that could help your community thrive? What are the advantages,
Mm.
disadvantages? So we walk around to a variety of settings, and the students are amazing with their observations. And it's obvious that the classroom teachers have done an amazing job setting the students up for success to be able to apply that learning that they've done in an outdoor setting that they've been to but not thought about in a certain way. We have some wonderful discussions, and then after that the students go back and create Padlets, in which they have then created their Newdonian culture, decided to settle here or there because of the resources that are available, and this is how we're going to help our community thrive. It's a really great project.
Very cool. Very cool. Application.
Absolutely. One of our other projects that we loved to help get going was connected with a high school math class, in which they were working on distance, slope, pitch, and things like that. And so we took a walk around other parts of campus and helped students figure out, all right, here's an interesting, and we love to give students voice and choice. And so the teacher, we just led them on a little walk around, and the students were able to decide, no, actually, I'm interested in this area, and these other students were interested in another area over here. And so simple rules of outdoor education. Hey, as long as we can see you and you can see us and we can hear each other, then yes, spread out and find an area in which you can accomplish the objectives of the class, measure certain distances, use these classroom tools, and they're using some tech tools as well with some of their phones. Obviously, we know our students love phones, but so we take advantage of that connection to their phone and let them see that it's not just for social media, but it also has some really cool measuring and other distance, slope, etc. skills possible on it. And so then the students were actually eventually able to create a map that we are going to be able to use for our younger students with certain labels of this area has this slope with this difficulty level, and this one's a medium and this one's an easy trail. And so it's a really great project that we plan to grow with next year's class as well.
That's a beautiful integration. I love the idea of the older kids setting something up that the younger kids can then experience. That's awesome.
The high school students knew they had an authentic audience for whom they were
Right?
creating this project. I'm really excited that this particular teacher came up with the idea after a little bit of, hey, I'm Zach. I want to help you do something that your students need to do in a new, cool, innovative way. And we had full support from our admin team.
Perfect. So, along with that, then, so how does the program actually fit into the school schedule / calendar at Nido?
Great question. Well, obviously, with the travel programs, we know that we need to get those reservations done well ahead of time.
Hmm.
And with classic school scheduling issues, we have to watch out for the holidays and figure out when are the big testing zones. And so those kinds of calendaring situations occur a year to 18 months in advance as far as for when is the best time weather-wise in Chile for the middle school trips to occur. We like to have our sixth grade off-campus program occur in the first semester. It is part of their welcome to middle school concept. Who am I? Who are we as the class? And what are some of the things that middle school believes in as far as educating the whole child? And so that's why the sixth grade program occurs in the first semester. Seventh grade program occurs at the beginning of the second semester, whenever it's still good weather, summertime weather here in Chile. And we actually just recently did a recalendering of the high school travel Week Without Walls program to occur in the second semester. Audrey, when you were here, we did it in November, but now it's going to occur in March. So this iteration that's actually going to occur in the next couple of months will be our first version of occurring in March. For a variety of reasons, we could speak to trying to make the first semester flow more smoothly with less interruption, and also thinking that whenever the senior IB students are going to be taking their IB mock exams is a good time for the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders to be off campus away and experiencing that travel program. And then after the seniors are done with their IB exams at the end of May, that's whenever we'll offer them a travel version of Week Without Walls. And so we are excited about the new version. And obviously, we're not expecting perfection in a new iteration. And we know that there are going to be some kinks that we're going to learn from and seek to improve the year after that. But as I referred to before, we're not just the travel coordinators. We really believe in working with students from pre-K all the way through 12th, from the beginning of the school year in late July, early August, all the way through the end of the school year in June. Springtime rolls in Chile in September, and that's when we get a lot of interest from our pre-K, K1, K2 first graders to go on spring hikes, and we look for changes in nature, or we look for first grade works with habitats. So we take them on walks and try to search for, all right, what are the three main characteristics, food, shelter, and water, that each species needs to be able to find, and who are their predators, and who is the prey, who's the predator? Does that mean that some animals are bad because they are eating the cute little bunnies? And, it makes for a great conversation with first graders. And so we fit those in September and October. And so it really, throughout the entire year, we're very busy figuring out, the middle school science program, based on the variety of content constraints, they're working with biodiversity in November. So that's whenever we are amid supporting and coordinating travel programs, we're also helping our middle school science teachers observe the local flora around campus in the main campus area and also the hills we have behind us. And they take little surveys, they take pictures, they use book resources, they use tech resources, and give us a little data collection of what are the flora that we have around campus.
It sounds like it's really fully integrated into the program. Do they have a set period of the day that they go and do the outdoor ed program? I'm wondering, just in case maybe there's a school that's starting to set this up, what advice you have around how does that work into kind of the daily or weekly schedule of classes and stuff?
I see what you mean. No, there's not a set time. We do know that the elementary teachers obviously have the constraints of having to watch out for when their students need to go to music class or art class or PE class and things like that. But then watching out for those constraints, then they write us an email and say, hey, Zach, in the next couple of weeks, we would love for you to be able to support us in this way. And that's whenever we look for our available times to match theirs and block out some time together. The middle school has advisory times in which they will sometimes, but it's a short advisory time. But then there's certain, I believe Wednesday is WIN block. What I need is what the WIN of WIN stands for. And so that could be extra study time. That could be some puzzle time. That could be some outdoor time. And so we get emails, hey, Mr. Zach, we're wondering if you can help us go for a wellness hike during WIN block next Wednesday. Yes, we would love to. Our answer is pretty much always yes whenever we get emails from students asking us to help them connect with nature.
Wow.
And so high school has an advisory block in which they'll do a similar concept as well sometimes, but there's no set outdoor block.
Yeah.
But that idea is in the percolator for some future implementation.
So, but right now you're the ambassador, but the teachers are the instigators, or sometimes the students, which I love that you said that students sometimes contact you. That's fabulous.
Absolutely. Since my colleague and I are, as we referred to earlier, mildly on the instructional coach team, but we don't have a particular set of students, and we always see these students at this time. The teachers are the ones who know when is the right time for their curriculum, their content, and their schedules. So we wait patiently for them to say, yes, we're ready. And then we collaborate together to create what is the program that the teachers are looking for or the students are looking for, as you said.
That's fabulous.
So, Zach, you pretty much answered my question. So I'm just going to offer a little commentary, and then we'll let Audrey ask a really interesting question about other programs, other schools. So to me, the idea that you all are looking at your program with fresh eyes and, as you're saying, having various iterations. And as a former IB teacher, I found that makes a lot of sense. If you can be offering some program after the kids have finished with their exams, when there's all that downtime, and it can be something that they really look forward to as a way to kind of tie the end of the year together for them. So I found that very interesting. And I also found it very interesting that you're in the instructional coach phase, that you're finding these ways to integrate the components. So I wonder down the road whether you're doing it now if you attend curriculum meetings, because that is an instructional technologist, that's what we would do to bring the technology in to enhance the instruction and general learning. And Audrey was saying off mic, it really is like you and your partner are tech integrators, which makes me think of the TPAC model on how we integrate technology, but you're integrating life skills, character strengths, aspects of your curriculum into the regular curriculum. So,
Indeed.
yeah, it sounds like you've given a nice description of how the program grows from early childhood all the way through the high school.
So another thing we were wondering, your program certainly is unique. And as you said, I think off mic, that part of what makes it so possible for Nido is based along the lines that Waldo Stevenson, the founder of the school, acquired. How many acres of land is it, Zach?
Oh, it's over 100 acres.
Okay.
I believe it's probably about 150 acres total.
Right. And so clearly Nido has that as a definite part of its mission from the beginning and has the opportunity to use that. Do you know of other international schools that have similar programs? Do you know any schools that are just getting started? Do you have any tips for people?
Well, as I was telling David earlier, during COVID times, whenever a lot of our outdoor trips were shut down for obvious reasons, my colleague and I were afforded the time to do some deep investigation into what are other schools across the world doing similar to ours. And so I've got a study comparison spreadsheet in which there actually are a lot more schools who have programs like this than perhaps one might realize.
Mm.
Bern in Singapore, or in Qatar, Buenos Aires, Montevideo, Lima, Bogota, Dubai, Shanghai, Tanzania, in Kenya, in Nairobi, that is. And so there are just many other schools who have decided that, yes, we want to do some sort of experiential, nature-based, outdoor character education program. So there are a lot of different versions of it, but we're certainly, I wouldn't call us unique. I would say that we were among a team of schools who really believe that having an outdoor education, experiential education program is something that schools should consider developing as a way to teach that whole child, educate that whole child, like we referred to earlier. And so as you asked me this question, I'm happy to pull that tab of that spreadsheet up again so I can enjoy checking out that research that I did previously, and then got too busy to take some of the next steps and see we should, really consider, and perhaps, this podcast with you all could help it happen, is have an international team of outdoor educators who can connect with each other
Cool.
and really connect, as we say, because that's one of our main key words. Let's walk the talk and reach out and figure out how can we be learners with each other. What am I doing? What are we at Nido doing that we could share with others? And what could we at Nido learn from others across the world? And perhaps I would want to share the idea that even if your school is in the early stages of starting to consider an outdoor education program, start somewhere. Even if you are the ninth grade science teacher or the middle school humanities teacher that I referred to earlier, and you're not sure if you're going to be able to convince the bosses to hire somebody to do the job full time, see if that could be one of the stipended positions that, instead of you doing an after school activity, that you could start an after school outdoor education program once a week is somewhere. And then maybe it grows next semester to 3 days a week. It's better to start somewhere. And so I'm happy to be a resource for anybody who wants to have a conversation, and that I can then know that there are things that I can learn from people across the world in this area.
That's so cool. I love the idea of a network. And then if someone were trying to set up a program, they would know, they would have that as a resource of where they could reach out and see what kind of things are being done in other schools. I think that's awesome.
I would love to have that
I
conversation.
see a conference in your future, Zack. I'm not making work for you. I'm just teasing, but that's really cool.
I would welcome that conversation with anyone who wanted to have it.
Well, in a few minutes, we're going to ask you how people can contact you. So
All right.
we'll put that out there for folks who are listening to this. And one of the great things about our Educators Going Global hub of information is we really want people in the coming years to come to the website. This might be a podcast that is, we're going to put it out soon, but it might be 2-3 years from now that someone listens to it and goes, oh, I really want to learn more about experiential ed, outdoor ed. So that's pretty cool. So clearly you are excited about your program. You love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
What are 1 or 2 things that you're most proud of about your program?
Well, shortly after the 8th graders went to their outdoor education program in November, I received an email from one of the educators who said, 10 days ago, our students were very much 2 separate cliques in the classroom. And this is an advisory group of about 12 students. And after these students spent from a Monday morning in a bus to arriving and 4 nights away at an outdoor education camp-like experience and arriving back to school on a Friday afternoon. So that's a very short time. The following Monday, they were exploding with joy and exuberance and connectedness with each other, singing songs and touching each other and hugging each other. These were students who were in 2 separate worlds in a classroom, in a regular sized classroom, 7 days before this experience. And so I'm getting choked up about it, just thinking about those are the kinds of, that's why we do what we do, is that we really feel like in a short outdoor experience, learning about the flora and fauna of the local area and some hiking techniques and how to conserve water where you can, we help these students realize that we are a community that should be very much connected and help each other when we're sad and give each other love whenever we do really cool things. And so whether they're 7th graders or 11th graders or 4th graders or whatever, we feel like we are reaching their hearts in many ways in wellness and also helping them realize, humans aren't the only species on the planet. I've got to make sure I'm doing, I've got to make sure I'm doing my part to take care of it. So it's, to me, it's special that in an outdoor education program, we're helping us realize that we have responsibilities to take care of the planet and to take care of each other and to take care of ourselves.
That's so beautiful. As you say, those are the moments that fuel us.
Yeah,
as educators.
exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's the program where they learn their role in the group and kind of what they can contribute, I think.
You're right.
Is what your website says.
You're right.
So yeah, that's excellent. It clearly, the goal of the trip was achieved.
Amen.
How beautiful.
And that speaks to the vision that our founder had back in 1934, is that using nature as a source for social collaboration, a means of sharing, and a means of growing. We're still doing it almost
Beautiful.
100 years later.
Wonderful. Good for Waldo. So it sounds like the current program, it's really thriving. It sounds like there's a lot of history there. Tell us a little bit about the future. Do you have some specific plans? I know you talked about changing when the Week Without Walls is happening. Do you have other visions for what this could be in the future?
Well, one of our main foci right now is to really systematize the curricular support that we're doing with teachers more. We know that our travel programs are well established and that we're always looking to improve them. We believe hardcore in feedback and reflection, both in the logistical improvements and the learning objectives that are happening on those travel programs when they occur. But those are well established, and not that we're not still going to continue to improve them year for year. But one of our main points is the curricular connections that we really feel like is the way that we can make it more than just a one-off outdoor trip program, but
Right.
how can we continue to grow as a community and help be innovative and create what is the new educational model that we can learn those math concepts not on the whiteboard but out on the stairs, or figure out, like we referred to with that middle school humanities program, how can we look around and examine the features that we see every day but forget to look at with a certain lens on. And so our curricular support program is going to be our main focal for the next year or more, at the same time as continuing to work on the other improvements I just referenced.
That's awesome.
So as we wrap up, we're wondering if there's anything else you want to share, just ideas that we haven't touched on, and also any contact information, whether you're out there on the social networking or, like you were saying earlier, people can contact you directly if they want insights.
Well, our social media presence is, I wouldn't call it new, but it's still in its early stages. Nido Without Walls is our Instagram label that we would love to connect with other folks. Nido Without Walls on Instagram. And so if you are an Instagram user and are good at it, please reach out to us, and we would love to connect. And I will be the first to say I'm not awesome at it. And it's an area in which I would like to continue to push myself to grow and be more active. Whenever we come back from some of our experiences, we try to make the habit of 3 to 4 pictures and 3 to 4 sentences about what are some of the cool learning activities that just occurred. But we all know how it is in education, is sometimes that next big thing is distracting to try to get ready for, rather than share that social media. And so, but we know the importance in some ways of social media to really get yourself out there and share what are the cool things you're doing. And so the Nido parent community can see, oh, wow, that's beautiful. Wow, they learned, my kids learned. Wow, I'm so grateful that my children got to have this experience today. So that's an area of growth that we should definitely push for ourselves. And I guess one of the other things that I'm going to continue to try to push our school for, and I know that we are committed to this, is sustainability in schools is, got to be a major focus for us. We know that is, other than COVID-19, that is the other largest global issue that we're all facing, no matter where we live and work. What are the things that we can do as educators in the classroom, as advocates for the earth, with our students and with each other and with our school? So we know that the school knows that it's an issue, that we are working together on creating a sustainability committee to examine it with the curricular focus, examine it with the campus infrastructural focus and examine it with a community philosophy and value focus. And so that'll be another thing that I continue to put some of our time and effort towards for our students and our community.
That's fabulous.
So, I mean, I would also add that if there are, I also feel like surely there are other folks who feel the same way as that, man, our school is awesome in so many ways, but we need to continue to push ourselves to how can we improve our sustainability. And I know that there are sustainability in schools, websites and associations, and I've done a little bit of research, but then we get bogged down and it's so much information. And so I'm curious to know if there are networks of educators in international schools that have done some work in sustainability and that we could have some conversations and make recommendations about how can we continue to do the improvement that needs to happen in this area as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there are, we would love to hear from you as well so that we can have an episode about that as a way to share and get some guest blog posts up on our website/hub about international education. That sounds wonderful.
I'll be ready to listen to that one, Audrey.
Zack, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. It's been educational and informative, and it's also just such a joy to reconnect. So thank you so much for taking the time.
I couldn't agree more. I feel honored to have been invited, and it's been a wonderful conversation reconnecting with you, Audrey. David, it's great to get to know you, and I hope to hear more from you and your story and where your next steps take you. I will add your podcast to my listening queue.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Educators Going Global.
You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the other usual suspects.
Please subscribe, like us, and leave a review on Apple and Spotify, and let your teaching friends know about us so we can grow our community.
Please reach out at educatorsgoingglobal@gmail.com and join our Facebook group, Educators Going Global, if you have ideas, comments, or wish to share a Going Global story of your own.
You can also find us on Instagram at Educators Going Global.
Please visit our website as well, www.educatorsgoingglobal.com. All our podcast episodes are on there by topic, along with blog posts, Going Global stories, and our ever-growing resource library. For now, this is Audrey
And David.
inviting you to travel,
Teach.
and connect with us.